and I are color coordinated today. Nice.
YouTube is going live. Let's get in there.
All right. YouTube's coming.
YouTube is now live. We are good.
All right. Welcome everybody to the 034 Motorsport live chat.
Happy hour.
Platinum session. I don't know. Never really quite arrived on a name. We're here to answer all your questions about all things 034 Motorsport. Our products, our services, our history. We're not talking much about updates anymore. So if you'd like to know when something is going to be finished or ready, probably just going to ignore that for now.
Yeah, we don't have shipping statuses for your order live in front of us.
As a company, we do.
We do, yeah, not here.
But yeah, we don't personally. So, anyways, ask your questions in the browser of your choice. We take an OBS approach. We like to hurt feelings whenever possible.
I don't know that we like to. It just happens sometimes.
We're really good at it. So we must like it. We must be terrible people. We got questions coming in already. So
yeah, there was actually quite a stack in YouTube already.
We read the questions off the phone, so I'm not on Threads or TikTok or InstaSnap. All right, someone asks, what's the reason that E60, E70 mix makes more power than E85 tune for the Stage 3 offerings?
Yeah, that's just the amount of fuel that's required for the power output. So E60, E70, so when you're on E85, global, generally you're looking at using about 30% more fuel, give or take, than just on gasoline or like a gasoline race fuel. And that, percentage reduces as you go to a lighter and lighter mix to like E60 or E70. So you just got another 10% of fuel essentially you can use, and you can use that fuel to make more power. Mm-hmm. So we can put more air into the motor and use more of that, get more energy out of that same amount of fuel.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the fuel system capacity for gasoline, then the fuel system capacity for E85 is here. So if you go full E85, you drop the fuel system capacity. If you are on 91, or 93, you have maximum capacity, but you have low capacity for power due to detonation, due to octane. You're octane limited. So there's several different charts. This is the fuel capacity chart, but then when it comes to the octane chart, it's like this. All right, so then you're essentially combining these two charts. So you're going somewhere in the middle. So you're going from 10% E content, which most gasoline is, to 40, 50, 60%, and you're maximizing the output because the detonation or octane rating is optimized or maximized compared to gasoline, but you still keep the fuel system capacity because you're not fully 85. It's a little complicated to wrap your head around, but it's fundamentally, as Nate said, due to the fact that alcohol has less energy in it per unit than gasoline, and E85 is essentially alcohol. Now I got my TTE A10 today. We'll be installing the app. Will be installed ASAP. Can't wait. Cool. Yeah, enjoy. It's an amazing piece of kit. You'll love it. Can't wait. You guys have released valves, rods, and bolts plus solid buckets. Are we getting an 800 horsepower tune on the 810 or a full frame?
We talked about this actually last week. With built, we will be doing a more. We'll be maximizing what the 810 can put out based on if we've got the hardware to support it. So it's also going to need fueling modifications above and beyond engine mods at this point as well too. So yeah, we'll get whatever we can out of it given the hardware on the market.
We don't currently have plans to do valves. We do have rods currently on the site.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about solid buckets or anything either.
We don't have any plans to do solid buckets, and I'm not sure that will be needed anytime soon. We do have head bolts and head studs and main studs available on the site in stock, ready to ship.
Main stud is for B8.
Oh, okay. Head studs and
Springs retainers.
Springs retainers are in stock, ready to ship. And then pistons we have actually pistons in stock. So if you're interested in JE pistons, let us know. We will be getting those on the website like this week. So, but we do have really nice forged piston sets in stock, which I think should address once and for all any piston failure issues that anyone is having. As far as getting 800 horsepower, I mean, we're basically there on the A10. But if you're talking like 800 wheel,
right. Yeah, that's a very different thing.
That's more power.
That's not in the turbo.
That's not in the A10. That would like we will likely in the future have a hybrid that can do 800 wheel. But eventually, I think the market will go towards full frame. We'll have to see if that makes sense for us. It's going to be hard to do full frame with the amount of space available. So the hybrid options are good because of that. Just flashed your 93 Pierce 750 no crackle file, night and day better than the IE file. Well, great to hear. Thank you for your positive feedback. We aim to please.
Yeah.
I remember you both saying for the Pierce 750, which may be my next move, I will need high pressure fuel pump, RS5 injectors. Are the updated 4-bar map sensors also required?
Upgraded 4-bar map sensors. Yes, you will need 4-bar map sensors as well. That's going to be any of the turbos bigger than this.
That should all be in the required, modifications for the Pierce 750 product page.
Yep.
So I guess continued, even with a 10% discount because I can't get a sponsorship with 034. The Pierce 750 is expensive. Will you ever work with companies like Autotech turbos that offer less expensive turbos? Listen, the Pierce 750 is not expensive. It's $3,300. It's $3,300. It's the most inexpensive option on the market. By far.
Yeah, aside from the AliExpress options that are out there, which is what one of the
is Autotech AliExpress?
It's an AliExpress / China.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to offer those type of turbos because they're not cheaper. When the turbo blows up, when it has issues, it's not cheaper. When you get stranded on the side of the road, it's not cheaper. So we're only going to work with reputable companies that have products that we can, with a high level of certainty, assure your satisfaction, happiness, and functionality. There's a reason these other turbos are cheaper. They're made in China. They're not balanced correctly. They're made with cheaper, inferior materials. Not that everything made in China is bad. You can get good stuff in China. But
if it's hey, this turbo is a half or a third the price of everything else, there's generally a reason it's a half or a third the price.
Yes. A Chinese turbo that's half the price is not something that I would ever put in our catalog. That's not a product that we would sell. There's a lot that goes into turbochargers. They're not, there's other stuff you can get out of China that is still going to be good. But turbos, when you look at the compressor wheel and the turbine wheel, I don't know. What are you guys seeing for shaft speeds on some of these?
It's up there. I don't know off the top of my head.
It could be 100,000 to 150,000.
It's well over that.
It
depends on the size of the turbo.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this lake.
But over 150,000 RPM, is what these shafts spin at. So they have to be balanced within extremely fine tolerance. And there's actually it's not easy to do, and there are really expensive machines that do this, that spin the turbos up using a huge motor that pumps hot air through the turbine housing, and actually spins the turbo up to its maximum speed, and then the balancing is done on the compressor and turbine wheels. It's not cheap. It's a really expensive and time consuming process. But if you're buying a turbo for half the price of a Pure 750, there's no free lunch. So it's made with cheaper materials, probably, gray iron instead of Inconel or stainless steel.
Yeah, because these are like the full housings and everything too. So it's who knows what they're using for the housings.
It could be really cheap, cast aluminum, And then, again, the balancing is going to be a huge factor.
So we've seen all kinds of different failure modes on these. You can have leaking around the wastegate actuator arm. The arms can seize, doing all kinds of weird, terrible things.
Right.
The
which could blow your motor.
Yeah, compressors explode. We've seen that. And then that also takes out your intercooler because you can never get the shrapnel out of the intercooler. So now you're buying a new turbo and intercooler. So yeah, the cost savings generally are not there.
Yeah. But listen, I mean, if we thought we could offer a cheaper turbo that had an acceptable level of performance and reliability, we would. But I'll tell you, nobody's getting rich selling TTE turbos or pure turbos. They're just expensive. They're using factory OEM turbo cores, which are not cheap. Even a used factory turbo is probably more expensive than these Alibaba turbos that you can buy. So I think eventually, maybe 5 years from now, some tuning company, maybe like someone like a Coyote Motorsport or something, will pop up and start selling cheap tunes for these cheap turbos, but not us. When will Bluetooth be working? Apparently we said soon, and so they're upset because we said soon. So now we're just going to say we don't know. It's coming.
We are working on it every day.
In the future, it will be available. We'll let you know when it's available.
It's doing some pretty crazy things right
now. Yeah, crazy good.
Crazy good things.
Will the Apple flashing work on only Apple silicone?
Initially, it'll be easiest in that aspect, yes, because we were able to run basically the iOS apps on the Apple Silicon MacBooks. Whether that gets officially released, yeah, phone's got it right there. Yeah, we'll have to see what the Apple Store says about that, but I don't think it'll be a problem. We've tested it; it works totally fine. So, yeah, I don't think we have plans right now to do a older Apple OS Mac or OS release, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys working on a fix for the PCV system?
PVC system
for B9 3.0T. If so, what's the update? Had mine fail. We are working on it. We've gone through a few different design iterations. It is actually a complex product. You can't just. This isn't just a product we could just poop out real quick, and it's taken longer than we wanted. We wanted to come to market by now. But the design of the PCV hose and the check valves and everything is pretty critical, and you can't just use. There's actually several kits on the market that claim to work that won't, because they simply haven't taken into account all the different variables and how the system works. So we would like to release it as quickly as anybody. So we're working on it, and it's currently our top priority in our hardware engineering department. Previous owner of my S5 B9 had your stage 1 tune and returned due to oil leak from cant. How do I fix this before I purchase your tune? If you have oil leaking from your cap, it's probably failed PCV.
The aforementioned PCV we were just talking about. Yeah.
So we have a video on this on our YouTube. Is it on the Uncut channel or the main? It's on our main YouTube channel. But you're going to want to likely watch that video, test your hose, and replace it. Very likely you'll need to replace it. Eventually we will release an updated, upgraded kit, and you'll want to read that. Hey guys, is there any news on CREC advanced launch and test pipe files? I mean, I know it's something that's being worked on.
Yeah, we are working on CREC things. I don't have enough an ETA for both of those features yet.
It's not like imminently going to be released. Can I download a high torque file to my Mark 8 with a locked TCU?
I mean, you can. It'll work fine. It's just going to ride the cap that the TCU is put in place. So it's going to be, when it does that, it's more reactive because the ECU thinks it's going to be able to make all this torque. The TCU comes in and says, "Hey, nope, I want to make this much." So the driving experience is likely not going to be as smooth. Yeah. And I don't think you'll be making any. I haven't done back-to-backs on the latest files, but I think it's going to be basically the exact same output between them because we just ride that line that we're able to get away with from the TCU on the reduced torque files.
I just got an S4 2020 a year ago, and I'm looking at. Sorry. It would still make more power and torque than the low torque file.
No, it'll likely be identical.
Okay,
because it's just going to ride that cap all the way across anyway.
Which is what
the low torque file is calibrated to basically be that from the beginning.
So you can run it, but you really don't want to.
Yeah.
You just want to run the low torque file until we have the TC one.
Yep.
I just got an S4 2020 a year ago, and I'm looking at you guys for a tune over IE, but curious, do you have any ballpark numbers for a stage 1 E85 60 to 130?
I don't have a lot.
I don't know off the top of our heads. I do think the consensus is our tune is the fastest on the market. So yeah, I don't have that specifically. I think as far as like driving experience, reliability, you may want to, if you haven't seen kind of the S storm around IE right now, you may want to look into that. But I think there's no question that the 034 B9 tunes are the best on the market. We do have quite a bit of quarter mile times documented. Generally, a stage 1 E85, you're going to be kind of in the 11.2 to 11.5 range, depending on the conditions and the car. This is well documented on the forums as well. But yeah, I would not be going that other direction right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's not a lot of, at least off the top of my head, the 60 to 130 is not as much of a metric that gets thrown around regularly for those. Yeah, not for stock cars.
Not for stock cars. When would you choose Camster versus caster or camber mounts for the MQB? It's all going to depend on what type of alignment strategy settings you're looking to do. So the Camster is going to give you camber and caster in one mount. If you'd like to do like more of a ball joint camber adjustment, then you could use the caster mount by itself. And so then you will control the amount of camber with the ball joint, and then you will use the strut top to get the maximum caster. And then the camber mounts, are just going to give you the basic camber without having to change the ball joints. So we kind of came up with all three because there were times here where we were shooting for different alignments. If you want to get really aggressive, you can start combining like the RCO ball joints with the Camster, the camber caster, or the caster mount, and get quite a bit more caster and you can get up to like 6 degrees of camber if you start combining those parts. So the flip side, the negative is that we start getting into like analysis paralysis and giving people too many options. But we thought it'd be worth giving people the options, considering how established that platform is, and there are quite a few people tracking those cars. RS5 B9 head stud recommendations. We are finding that on all the 2.9 and 3.0 T motors that head studs are recommended. We did put head studs in our RS5. We're not seeing quite as much of an issue with head stud or head studs, head bolts, factory head bolts stretching in customer cars. Our cars get really abused.
Yeah, I can't see why we wouldn't if it's a really heavy used track and drag and whatever applications that is not going to be a problem.
But because of the metallurgy of the factory head bolts, when you essentially, I don't know what the combustion pressure is 50% more combustion pressures, you're putting a lot more stress on those factory head bolts. And because the PSI strength of those factory head bolts is not that high, because they don't have to deal with factory power, slowly those bolts start stretching. And we're talking about a very, very tiny amount. But as that happens, when you're under boost, the head studs will allow the head to lift slightly. And actually combustion pressure goes out of the combustion chamber into the coolant jacket. And then so you start pressurizing your coolant system. all high horsepower 2.9 and 3.0 Ts will need head studs, and it's not a quick, easy job. If you keep the power lower, you shouldn't need it. But when you're really, you're at stage 3 on full power, E60 file, eventually you will need it. The way you'll know is you'll start, your coolant system will start burping, and eventually you'll get a coolant light, like a low coolant warning light, and you'll see like coolant has come out of the reservoir. Thoughts on the upcoming APR turbo for B9 3.0T? Will 034 be making their own turbo, or are you looking into Garret or Precision? As far as the APR turbo, they've been working on that for years. It's not clear when they'll actually release anything. I know there was a picture of their marketing guy holding it like a baby, which is really amazing and super productive. What I have heard is that their tune will only run on stock injectors, so I think it's pretty telling on how much power it will make. I do believe it's a turbo they're having made for them in China at this probably the same factory that's making their MPB turbo. So we're not too worried about that as an option on the market. I don't think it'll be very attractive given some of the specs. And again, if they ever release it, they easily could have been the first to market stage 3 for B9. We are looking into making our own turbo. For the time being, the existing companies out there like TTE and Pure are continue to come out with good options. And so we can either put our focus on designing and engineering a turbo, or all the components and parts to support it. And there is a myriad of like parts and components, including all the intakes and the supporting modifications. So for the time being, we're focusing on that. But the B9's still really early in its trajectory, so we'll see what the future holds. Will there be some more updates to the B8 S4 ECU and TCU tunes?
Oh yeah, I am working on lots of both ECU and TCU. We've got updates rolling out for I don't know what more to say than that, but yes, we have revisions coming. Both B8, B8.5, and TCU stuff in the works. Somebody's also asking if the B8 will get the R7.2 fix that we're rolling out for the B8.5 right now. That is, to my knowledge, for all the feedback we've gotten, a B8.5 only thing. Basically the torque slewing maps are different between the two. And the calibration that was done on the B8 is a little bit different than the B8.5 that was pushed out. So from everything I've heard, everybody's been fine with the B8 stuff.
And R7.2, you want to review real quick?
Yeah, somebody actually mentioned it too. If we want to read this guy.
Oh yeah, just want to say that revision 7.2 for B8.5, smoother throttle mapping did my car so much justice. It feels like a normal car now at single-digit miles per hour. Doesn't feel so jittery anymore.
Yeah, so we went and with a bunch of feedback, we went back and said, okay, the B8.5 guys in particular appear to be more sensitive to this, or not more sensitive, more they're noticing this more than we would we want.
Wait, are you saying they're just sensitive, whiny,
little? No.
Okay.
No, and the calibration is different between the two of them, between the B8 and the B8.5. Ideally,
they are different. Yeah,
ideally, my B8, and this isn't a thing, but it is different between the mapping. The stock mapping is different. The tuned mapping is different. So, we went back and revised that. It's a map that controls. It's not the linearity to the throttle. That's the same. It's the rate of change to that torque request based on your change of pedal input, and just basically how quickly it allows the torque calculation and the torque request to change based on your throttle input. And those are the maps we're talking about here, and bringing those back up a little bit and a little more towards the stock feel. You could say at lower speeds is people.
Yeah, so I mean,
I think, liking that more.
I think we see this often. Like if we do an update to one thing, to one application, people in other applications ask like, "Does this?" And it's a fair question. You have different tuning and mapping, and the issue that we solved in B8.5 doesn't exist in B8 because they're just different maps and calibrations. So if there's something specific you want addressed in B8,
yeah, if it's a thing with B8s, but I mean, ideally drive the thing. It's not something that I've come across.
No, the feedback's been completely B8.5. So. Do you suggest swapping back into regular gas every X number of fill-ups when filling up with the 85? I don't think it can hurt. I mean, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Gasoline is a better solvent than ethanol, and so I think it definitely can't hurt. I've been driving around on fully 85 in my Q7 for a while, and it is. I need a break from.
Well, you in particular, the way
just because some of the gas stations, I've had some bad experiences with gas stations and things like that. So I would especially say too, if you're going on a long trip or anything, just flash to a gasoline file because your trip will be much less stressful. Yeah. But it's also those long miles will also the gasoline can go in there and clean. Now it's not.
You're also in this situation where we don't have the mobile flashing set up for your car, so
yeah, I would be flashing back and forth more. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's not a bad idea. I don't think we have a recommendation on X number of whatever.
No, we've had cars here that have been almost their entire lives on just E85. I don't have any concrete data that shows like, hey, after this many tanks, it's this bad or this good.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not a bad idea, and definitely worth doing every once in a while. I would say if you're going to be doing some driving where you don't really care about having as much power, then certainly just go back to gasoline. To maximize the stock turbo stage 2 full bolt-on setup, would it be worth it to heat wrap the downpipe to lower IATs, intra-bay temps, and switch from CTS turbo inlet to superDuper inlet?
The downpipes are already, well, it depends on what downpipe you've got.
Yeah, wrapping the downpipe's not going to change IATs.
No, that's all on the other side of the engine bay, and it should have a heat shielding on it anyway.
I don't think it's going to hurt anything to wrap the downpipe. It's probably not going to affect things too much. When you're moving, the intercompartment temps shouldn't really be affected by that. I think the CTS turbo inlet is just a cheap kind of knockoff of the factory part, but cast in aluminum. So if you want a properly engineered product that actually performs, then yes, the superDuper inlet's the way to go. Again, you can wrap your stock downpipe. I don't think it makes a difference too much one way or the other. Is the S34 intake for B9 still a thing? Yes, it is. Absolutely. We're finishing up manufacturing on it, and we will make it available as quickly as possible. But it won't be done till it's done. But yes, we are still working on it. We're working on making it. Yeah, I think they just took the factory plastic part and just reverse. It
doesn't look like it's any.
There's no I don't believe there's any performance figures listed. There's some fake dyno chart. Yeah. You all said mobile tuning during summer. What happened with that? Well, it was just summer, like 3 days ago.
Dude, guys, come on. No, trust us. We want this out as fast as you do. Well, way faster than you do.
We're shooting for summer.
Yeah, we're working on it. Every day it's getting a lot closer. We just want to get the right experience and the right, setup out there so that
no, it's getting very close, but this is the problem. We talk about this stuff.
Should we just not mention it so we don't make you angry that we haven't released the thing you haven't?
I don't think he's prepared for it.
Yeah.
No.
I'm not saying this guy.
He wants.
We get plenty of people that are getting all saucy with us.
Yeah, everybody wants it, and so do we. So we are working on it as we speak. I get some dashboard creaks in my B9S4. I've heard that your strut brace resolves this. Is it true? How flimsy is the factory brace? The factory brace is much flimsier than our billet aluminum brace. So this is pretty much solid billet aluminum parts. that we were actually the first to market with this years ago, probably in like 2017. And we've sold many. Customers give us all kinds of positive feedback on it. We don't necessarily claim anything specific, but it is a much more rigid piece than the factory piece, and it does tie together your front strut towers into the firewall assembly in a very rigid way. So we do have customers who claim that it reduces creaks, it makes steering feel more precise, and we get lots of positive feedback from it. So let's see.
Looks good too.
Who's saying the SQ5?
Nick.
Oh, okay. Nick, our own marketing manager, says that it got rid of dashboard creaks in his SQ5.
Same with my S4.
And your S4 too. So these are in stock, ready to ship. Very high quality piece. It's very beautiful to look at too. It's like front and center when you kind of pop the hood. So yeah, it's been much copied and attempted to copy. Lots out there. Yeah, it's beautiful finish too. We do a special media blasted anodized finish on here. So yeah. Stage 2 full bolt-on car, dual res delete and mid-muffler delete stock rear mufflers with catless downpipe. Is there any more power to be had by buying a full 2.5-inch catback system for more CFM power up top?
What car are we talking?
I'm guessing an S4, but
yeah, B8, B9?
Probably B9.
Give us some more info to work with, guys. I mean,
he says catless downpipe.
It's probably B9.
Okay.
Let's just assume it's B9.
Yeah. I mean, all of our calibrations and tuning has been on essentially the same setup you've got, where we've got the Res X's in, but it's the stock rear section. All of our drag racing on our RS5s was the full stock rear section. I mean, the stock exhausts on these are pretty solid. All of our B9 stuff was also still full rear section on the exhaust, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we haven't seen any reason to that we're locked up a bunch of power based on that. So, no, I think that's just be a personal preference thing.
Yeah, the factory exhausts these days are quite good.
Yeah,
it's possible you might make a little bit more. We aggressively pursue restrictions, power reducing restrictions, which you've seen.
Yeah, I want to say
normally take side.
Yeah, we'll if we think there's a thing, anything in the exhaust, we'll actually just drop the whole rear section on the dyno and do pulls. And I'm trying to remember what and when we did that on the B9, but yeah,
it's probably a small amount. Yeah. It could be like 10 horsepower or something like that. Yeah. It's not the first place I would spend money on. And if you're stage 2 and you want to go faster, then
it sounds like
it's right there.
Yeah, there's stage 3, and it sounds like they got most of it. But
that's stage 2, right?
Stage
2 full. Yeah. So stage 3 would be the next step. And just to prove the point, a lot more power can be made with stage 3. Yeah. Same exhaust.
And if you're looking for a louder car, stage 3 is naturally louder. I mean, it's a larger turbine.
The turbine itself opens that up.
Yeah. Question: how reliable is the Mark 8 GTI as a daily? Very reliable.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to depend. No issues with ours.
Ours has been great. It's going to depend on your Mark 8 GTI, but in general, I mean, they've been reliable. They've had some electrical quirks here and there, but
now there's I think there's concerns out there for warranty stuff. A lot of it's superficial stuff with the factory, MMI system or whatever it's called.
Yeah, there's the
computer.
The lane is not the lane keep. It's losing me now. The
travel assist.
Travel assist. A bunch of travel assist warnings that the steering wheels are getting swapped out. But
radiators.
Radiators unclipping is a thing apparently. Yeah, but it's still a small amount.
Hey, on this second question here to help if you stuck in some of the information.
Yeah.
If an injector goes bad, do you recommend changing all of them or just the faulty one?
It's going to depend on mileage.
You can get away with changing the one. it's kind of like if you go to a tire shop and you have one bad tire, they're always going to tell you, it's best to change all four. But in certain conditions, you can certainly change one tire and be okay. But if you want to be safe, just change them all. If you think that you have identified the one faulty injector and you've, with a high level of certainty, confirmed that the other 5 are still good, then just do the one and see how it goes. So yeah, I would say let's just stick to like the top, like E60, E70 files, because there's a little.
Can clear them out.
2 questions. One, does the lifetime fluid in the B9S for differential need to be serviced? The car is tuned to stage 1.
I've never abided by lifetime fluids in these, so no, I would say it's probably going to do you some service to swap that out. I did my
50,000
miles. 50 would be early, but I'd say 50 to 75K at least for the rear diff. Depends on application. If you're on the track a lot, those clutch packs are working. And I got to remember on B9, but I believe there's 2 different fluid reservoirs in that rear diff on that as well, where you've got basically the torque vectoring side, and then you've got your normal ring and pinion fluid. The torque vectoring side can take a beating if you're on track a lot with it. And I mean, it's not a lot of money to freshen that all up back there. For some peace of mind.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions.
Here, guys.
Just installed your high pressure fuel pump to go to stage 1 plus. Great product and easy to install with a 6-inch vise. Nice call having a 6-inch vise. Can't go wrong there. Can you comment on the reason why you chose DLC coatings on both piston and cylinder, while some competing pumps only nitride the cylinder and DLC the piston? We can't really go into too much detail there, other than the fact that in our testing, this was determined to have the best long-term reliability and performance. So yeah, we can't speak to why other companies do what they do. Here's another question. APR's high-pressure fuel pump upgrade comes with a spring. What is the reason for upgrading the spring, or why is it not needed? My old Mark V high-pressure fuel pump upgrade came with a spring from Autotech. We didn't find need.
It's probably just whatever their piston geometry they had that they used for the retainer would be my guess. I'm not sure.
The key is updating the piston area, and that's what increases the additional flow. Hey guys, with all your great suspension lineup, do you guys plan on adding coilovers? We've talked about it, but the benefit over our current spring options is really only height adjustability. And
and then going beyond that, if you really want to get it dialed in, it's going to take a lot of work on your end. Like we've talked about that a bunch. We can't really give you a coilover setup that's just going to be better just because you spent more money on it.
We can do a non-adjustable drop-in coilover.
Sure.
Which is probably what we would do. But at the end of the day, you're going from like a $300-ish spring with an excellent factory damper to, say, $2,000+ coilover. And from our point of view, we can't really say it's any better, other than that you can adjust the height. The quality of the spring is not going to be any different. Even the specs of the spring aren't going to be much different. And then the factory comes with such good dampers that it's like, unless the dampers are bad, which the factory dampers last forever.
Dude, I'm still on my original OG V8 dampers.
100,000. It used to be you had to change your shocks and struts out every like 10,000 miles in the old days. So yeah, no, it's pretty rare when the factory ones go bad. They're really good, high quality. So other than to let people kind of fine tune their ride height, we don't see really the benefit.
Yeah, until, like we said before, you really get into the weeds with dialing in custom suspension settings and your valvings and all that, which is, there's no one size fits all when you get to that point.
Yeah. Let's see. Regarding the TT 810 and Pure 750, would you mind going into the specs and comparisons on the E60 file for standard output? Coming close to making a decision. All right, so the TTE is about $1,000 more expensive. Pure stage 3 plus 750 on E60. We rated it as 735 horsepower. The TT version is 774.
Yeah.
So you're there's another 40-ish plus peak horsepower. And what you don't see on the peak numbers is that the A10 actually spools up faster and holds power longer.
Yeah, and the transient response is better too. So the part throttles or part RPM, and then you just step into it. You're going to come up on boost quicker, regardless of like a fully loaded dyno pull from rest.
Yeah.
It comes up faster there too, but the actual transient response is noticeably quicker on the TT A10.
Yeah. So the Pure is a really good option, and it's a good value, but what we saw is the A10 is still the more capable turbo with broader power band that makes just more power overall. Anecdotally or qualitatively,
I didn't actually
people report that the A10 is a little more, has more turbo sounds. So, the turbine wheel is bigger and lets more exhaust through. We do have a comparison chart. Did that ever get added to the product page? With peak, we have a chart with peak numbers. I think I sent it to Nick.
Yeah, I shared him on that
Yeah.
a while back. So okay,
But there is
we did a couple of comparisons just so you could visually see on the same graph the two, as they get compared. So as equals.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but you can't go wrong with either. What we see is kind of the 750 kind of falls between the 710 and the 810. If you want to look at it that way. What's the next step to combat cylinder 6 injector issues for B9, B9.5s? Are ported injection, upgrade injectors in the works? We're not seeing nearly the issue here at 034 that IE is seeing, which has kind of created this huge S-storm online. They have many reported failures, and their failures are very specifically cylinder 5 or 6 from what we've seen. Just looking in form.
We have seen it, but it's
really rare.
It's certainly been
on the
based on the number of files we've got out there.
Yeah. The problem is right now, there's, imagine you're a detective, and you're trying to figure out who was murdered in a room full of people shooting guns, and that's kind of how the current atmosphere is out there. Did somebody murder somebody? Yes. Did someone shoot a gun at someone with the intent to kill them? Yes. But were there also 15 other people shooting guns, at the same time? So it makes it really hard to see, the trees from the forest in this case. I could keep going.
There's so many anecdotes you could do on this.
Was anyone even really murdered? We don't know. So it's hard to say. It's clear that there is some type of major issue with the IE tune. They've spent 3-4 weeks now blaming Audi. And there's just a lot of voices from a lot of different directions. So we had 034 are here doing our thing. Have there been reported engine failures on our tunes? Yes, there's a handful. And we research those as in-depth as possible because we need to know what happened. We haven't seen the evidence that our tune has been responsible for some of these failures. You're talking about thousands and thousands of cars running our tunes and a handful of failures. So on any given day, some Audi is out there blowing up for any reason. So the only thing we can do is research it, and our actions and our position is always influenced by the facts, by studying the failure and isolating variables. And this is a big problem that we see with kind of the keyboard armchair diagnosis out there is You have a lot of correlation. You have a lot of red herrings. You have people
and it's often
jumping to conclusions.
Yeah, and it's often spoken with such authority. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, hasty generalization. I mean, you could go down the list of logical fallacies and troubleshooting diagnostic errors, and it's all being displayed out there right now. At the end of the day, you have to figure out what the mode of failure was and what the root cause for the mode of failure was. If the failure was a damage number 6 piston, then you need to work backwards and isolate the variables. So in some cases, people are blaming tune. And with us, they blame the tune, and there's been other factors that contributed, as the root cause to the mode of failure. So I would say, continue to be curious and watch and listen. But if you want to hear what's actually going on, we will tell you on a week-to-week basis here. And certainly anything that we find. We did revise our stage 3 tunes a couple months ago, well before this kind of IE circus that's going on out there right now. But not for the same reasons that they have. And we just increased the margin of safety, and we gave customers a standard output file to give them more distance, more margin of safety.
Yep.
So that's what we'll continue doing. And we just updated a B8 tune that's like 10 years old, and we will regularly keep updating and staying on top of things for you guys.
Fart amplifier had a good username. Fart amplifier. My favorite when people say I don't know anything about engine tuning, but I've read a lot of comments, and here's what I think.
The fart amplifier.
Yeah. That's the internet in general is laden with that kind of feedback.
Hello from Audio Club North America, Eastern Canada. Welcome. Is it necessary to upgrade the valve springs and retainers when rebuilding the bottom end of? No. So if you're rebuilding the bottom end, I guess that could mean a few things. If you're just rebuilding the bottom end back to factory specifications, then you're just repairing the engine. If you're building the bottom end to make it stronger, say with rods and pistons, you're addressing the engine's ability to handle more torque through the combustion process. The reason you would upgrade valve springs and retainers, would be to allow the engine to rev higher, and to reduce the valve float that happens inevitably with every motor when the momentum and inertia of the valve overcomes the spring's ability to control it.
Yeah.
So imagine, you have a spring. Imagine, those like toys where it's a ping pong paddle and there's like a tennis ball attached on a elastic rope. The ping pong ball should always be attached to the paddle. But if you start moving the paddle enough, eventually that elastic will start stretching and the ping pong ball will no longer be connected to the paddle. And that's what happens in the drivetrain, the valve train as well. And so the camshaft lobe actually starts slapping the valve, and the valve the valve lifter actually leaves the interface with the cam lobe and eventually comes back. So the cam lobe is now slapping the valve down instead of
guiding it
and pushing it in a controlled way. So all these modifications to the engine are done for different reasons. Even you would upgrade a piston for a slightly different reason than you would upgrade a rod. You could change the valves in a head for certain reasons. But anyways, that's kind of a broad response to that question. What are your thoughts on the Merc Racing's upgraded supercharger? I feel like people are getting clever around like
getting ETAs and updates. It's a solid unit.
It seems very promising. Yeah. We continue to work on it.
Yep.
It's definitely capable of making more power than the factory supercharger, but it's not just, you can't just slap it on and go.
Yeah. And the challenge is always just isolating upgrades, right? You want to know what this one modification will do. That's such a difficult thing on any platform. And then you get into like the B8 world where it's like, what's a stage 2 plus? What's a stage 2? What pulley ratio? What intake? All of it adds up. What exhaust? What downpipes? So we're trying to do as best we can just to kind of show the potential of this whole thing and what it's really capable of right now. And that's where we're at. Yeah, it's going very well.
Yep. Hang in there.
Yep. And I think he just got some of his latest productions and some revised machining stuff. So yeah, it's soldiering forward here.
I have a GTI 2015. I have downpipe, front mount intercooler, intake, the JB4 on my car. I don't want to do a tune because I live in California, but I want to add an IS38. Could I install it without a tune?
Both of those things are completely. The JB4 is not allowed in California. We have a carb legal tune that you can flash to your car in California.
Yeah. In fact, who's the JB company?
Burger
Motorsports got in big trouble with California Air Resources.
Yeah. No, we literally
5-6 years.
We literally have a carb legal carb exempt calibration for your vehicle to flash and get a bunch of power in California.
Yeah. I mean, none of the stuff you're doing to your car is carb legal. So I guess you could either say, well, nothing I want to do is legal, so I can just do whatever I want.
Right.
Because tunes can be flashed and unflashed to the ECU very easily, just as easily as unplugging and plugging in a JB4. Yeah. Or you can just stop modding your car because it's legal, or you could go racing with it and do it legally. Or you can find carb exempt products like what we offer. So yes, we do have a carb exempt tune for your car, which is actually more legal than the JB4, which is not legal.
Yes, it is. It is one is exempt, one is not.
So you can go check out our tuning product pages, read about that. If you have any questions, shoot us a email to contact@034motorsport.com. Having a rough idle on cold start with a stage 2 tune S5 wasn't there before tune plugs have been done. Is this on E?
I don't know
because the E85 just doesn't start as smooth.
What application are we talking here, and what fuel? So
this is probably B9 ethanol.
Yeah, if you guys could let us know what application you're working with here, that would help a ton. I mean, the cold start gets, or the catalyst heating gets removed. It might be something in there. I don't know. Yeah, like Javad said, the E85, like super cold start, can maybe be a little more rough. Not sure.
Not necessarily rough idle, but like rough starting.
Or like another crank or two to get the pressure up and all that.
Which is just kind of the way it goes.
But no, if you've got actual rough idle or rough operation there when it's cold, let us know. We'll look at it.
I'm interested in buying springs for a very mild 1-inch drop. Why should I choose 034 over H&R Eibach? Specifically, I don't know what car this is, but these are my general comments, and I say this all the time. So if you look back through various clip outs, you've heard me say this before. We started making springs because we used to sell H&R and Eibach springs, and they would all ride too low and too rough and harsh. And so we started doing springs where the goal was to properly match a performance spring option to the factory dampers. And that's what our Dynamic Plus spring line is. We strive with every spring that we release to offer a substantive lowering visually while increasing spring rates at an optimal amount to optimize the spring rate to the factory damper without making it too stiff or too low.
Yeah, and too low is not, lowering just for the sake of lowering does not make it a better handling or faster or
no, and he's looking for exactly what we do is typically around 1 inch. So you're already right there. But what we're striving for is to have kind of a factory ride feel, or like maybe like if Audi offered a more performance oriented spring, it wouldn't be like rattling your fillings out and bottoming out everywhere. The other thing is, we are not only engineers, but we are enthusiasts. And as a CEO of the company, I'm involved in the development of all these products, and I actually ride and drive and ride in all these cars. and I make specific adjustments and recommendations based on the ride quality, on the handling characteristics. We take into account wheel and tire fitments, whether the amount of lowering that we do will rub. We take all this stuff into account. I don't know if the CEO of H&R Eibach, I don't think they do that. I don't think they know. And I think they have kind of a template. They make springs for every European car when they come out. And so while they may be working on 500 different spring options, we're only working on springs for Volkswagen and Audi vehicles. And we've started doing some for BMW. But, and then we also, in many cases, tailor make a spring for a specific model. So in many cases, we have an A4 spring, and then we have an S4 spring, and then an RS5 spring. So we will go through the whole line and do springs for each.
Yeah, we could have easily, same thing with S3, RS3. We could have just taken our existing S3 springs and stuck them in an RS3 and be like, hey, we got an S3, RS3 package, but
yeah, so
they're all tailored.
So anyways, those are some of the reasons why, we've been very successful coming into the spring market. We sell a lot of springs in a market filled with, established companies like Eibach and H&R and lots of other brands too. If I only have 93 available, what turbo will you pick between 750 and 810 for power delivery?
They're going to be really similar.
At the 93 level?
Well, the transient stuff is what, like I spoke to before, that you're going to notice a bit of difference. So I think the 810 will feel more responsive from the feedback we've got. But they're both going to be, pretty equivalent. That's the biggest difference I can think of that you'd want to consider. Money aside.
Gosh, so many questions.
Yeah. We've only got 3 minutes left.
Yeah. How did we get so many questions this week? Is it because it's Monday?
It was Monday last week.
Someone's asking about, they're saying their intake that they ordered keeps getting pushed back. It's not getting, no other intakes are getting put in front of yours because we have a first come, first serve shipping basis. There have been delays getting in raw subcomponents for various intakes. We're very sorry. I know we're getting in huge shipments of carbon fiber raw subcomponents right now. So B8 intakes in particular should be shipping very soon. We apologize for the delays. It's our intention to get stuff shipped as quickly as possible.
Someone's asking in here, do you ever see the B8 intercooler bricks being improved upon in the future? Not really. It's just due to a packaging constraint problem. I think that OE intercooler bricks are very well suited for the space that they have to work in, and the tube and the fin density is actually about as good as you're going to get in that volume. So unless somebody replicates that exactly and then maybe does something a little bit different to make the leaking problem a little better, that'd be about it. But from an actual heat shedding ability, I'd be very surprised if there was any substantive difference there.
We spoke with one company that specializes in intercoolers, and they said that they tried and they gained a couple % of efficiency for a ridiculously high cost.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's a volume constraint.
Yeah, and the problem is the factory ones are pretty good.
yeah. There's not a lot on the table for a performance improvement, at least on the course. So. All right, guys.
Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, we're out of time. A lot of questions, so we apologize if we didn't get to your question. We will save them in case we get to them in the future.
We'll try to get to them. If we run out of questions, we do keep our old backlogs.
Which has never happened.
So.
But feel free to send us an email if you'd like, or join us next week and get in. I'd say if your question comes in before the 30-minute mark, you're going to get it. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Have a great week. Thanks, guys. Cheers.